Okay, so we're recording, and so for project 2B, you're going to modify the model view matrix to create a dog out of spheres and cylinders. And there's a new code skeleton, which is project 2B.cxx. Again, this was designed for VTK 6. So what you use for 2A, you would continue for 2B. There's no geometry file this time. I have some routines to draw some simple things, and you'll use those routines to draw things. And you're going to use push and pop and rotate and translate and scale to do it. So this is my dog. And this gives you a sense of what success looks like. And you may not call this success, but this is, oh, it looks terrible, huh? I don't know. I don't know how to make it less bright in this room. Well, it looks terrible for multiple reasons. Number one, because this was something that was constructed by my kids and I. That was my daughter when, let's see, how old would she have been there? 10, and my son was 7. And so we did this together. And it looks like it was done by a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old, and that's okay. But also, it just doesn't look good on the screen. But you can see this is a sphere that's been flattened out, and here's another sphere and some more spheres, and these are more spheres, and here's a cylinder, and so on. So in project 2b.cxx, you have routines for generating spheres and cylinders and heads and eyes and pupils. So let's look at that. So your new goal is there's something called 441 Mapper Part 3, and you've got routines for drawing cylinders, and these are cool, right? So it's making, you can set the number of facets, it does a GL begin, and then it's actually just spacing them out, every, 360 divided by 30, is that every 12 degrees? And so every 12 degrees, there's another triangle that's placed along the top. So there's a circle along the top, a circle along the bottom, and that will make the top and the bottom of the cylinder. And then down here, it's making 30 quadrilaterals every 12 degrees, and then that makes a cylinder around there. So here's a routine for generating a cylinder. For the sphere, I think it's a cool way to make a sphere. What I do is I split this into 8 octants, and for each octant, I make a triangle. I'm not sure how to put this in the video very well. I make a triangle. So for an octant has 8 parts, right? 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom, and the 4 on the top are like the quadrants that you're used to seeing in your Algebra 2 classes, right? So for one of these octants, 1/8 of the space, this 1/8 right here, then it just makes a triangle where the 3 vertices touch the 3 axes. And then there's a routine that just takes each triangle and subdivides it 4 times and just keeps going and going and going. And with each subdivision, it pulls the vertices to be along the sphere. So this is a geometry creation routine, right? I start with 8 triangles, and then for each of the 8, I split to some recursion level. And actually, I take that back. I start with 1 triangle. For that 1 triangle, I split it a bunch of times. And then when I do my draw, I put some rotate commands in to take my 1/8 of a sphere and rotate it in position so I get a full sphere. So there's some examples here of how to do this stuff, and you can see there's pushes and pops and so on. So this is a routine to draw a sphere. I have some routines for setting colors. So brown and light brown, dark brown, pink and white, those are the colors I needed. Of course, you can add more colors, whatever color you'd like. And then I have some routines. So you have a draw eyeball routine, and the eyeball sets up an eyeball. It's white. It scales it to whatever the eyeball size is, and it calls draw the sphere, and then it calls black, and it does a translation and a scale to the pupil size, and it draws a second sphere relative to the first sphere. So that makes an eyeball, and then I think, do I have a head in here? When I draw the head, then I'm drawing a sphere, and then I put in some eyeballs by doing the left eye and the right eye with these translations. Okay, so there's code out there already to make cylinders, to make spheres, and then an example of making a head that has 2 eyeballs, including pupils, right? And the pupils are just little black spheres in the front of the white eye. Okay, so this is all part of the 441 Mapper Part 3, and then there's a routine down here, which is render piece, which you should be familiar with from 2A, and you put in all of your stuff to draw heads, and you see now it's saying do the body, and so there's more that you do. Okay, does this seem clear so far? Happy to take any questions as long as you know that I'm filming and you will appear in the YouTube video. At least your voice will. So what's the correct answer? It's something that looks like a dog, at least as much as mine looks like a dog. No obvious problems with the output geometry. So for example, if you have, oh look at my hair, I'm so vain. Has it looked like this all class? If you have a body and you get the leg, so it's attaching to the body, and the leg is offset wrong, and you can just clearly see like part of the leg just sticking out of the body, that's not enough, right? So we're going to look at them and say, is there any obvious output problems? So, so what does it say here? Something that looks like a dog, no obvious problems with output geometry. Something that uses the sphere and cylinder classes, although if you want to do something else, that's fine with me, but you probably should just check in and say, I want to do something different. So we had a cool one last year where someone made, I don't know, a very shaggy dog, but it was just like a lot of just like back, hair going back and forth. And it has to use rotation for the neck and the tail. If you don't use rotation for the neck and the tail, it's not okay. It's actually, if you just do scale and translate, it's not that bad. Rotation requires some more thinking, and I want you to use rotation. Now, let me say, and so I'm saying here on the neck and the tail, if you want to use rotation somewhere else, that's fine, but that's, and in fact, if it doesn't make sense for you to use on the neck and the tail, but you're using it elsewhere, okay, but I want you to be using rotation at least twice. And then aside from that, for the first time, there's no correct image that you have to match. I guess for the second time, 2A, there's a correct image, but we're not doing pixel differences. But here, it's expected to look really different. Here's some examples of what my kids and I did. So you can see there's the ear in approximately the right position, but here's some stuff where the ears ended up in the wrong position, and here's where the ears were too big. That actually looks all pretty okay to me. I don't immediately see the problem, but a tongue sticking out. What you got?
The one
yeah,
it's a really
big nose, yeah. And so that's probably too big. One of the things I'd object about that nose is you can see it spills out of the bottom of the top lip. And so that spot right there, you start saying, that doesn't look good, right? So, because it's not going to be the case. Your nose can sit on top of your top lip, but once the nose starts poking through the bottom of your top lip, fix it. And there's a nose that's too small, and there's a nose that's not oriented right, although that size could be fine, right? And then here was playing around with the neck and getting the neck and the body all oriented, and maybe a neck that's maybe too big or maybe it's okay. And then this was just a lot of, and then here's some more cutting room floor things where we tried doing legs, and the legs were too wide and too long right there, and kind of getting everything into position. So this will be part of what you do. You'll write these commands, and again, compile often, run often, look at what you do. If you want to work out in a notebook what you want to do, and then implement the entire program and compile it and run it, your odds of success are low to have it work the first time. I think it's more efficient with your time to just take small steps, compile it, run it, and see how it goes. So that, I think, is it for 2B. Are there any questions about 2B? Chance to be a little bit creative. Okay?